Welcome back to America's Retirement Headquarters. Appreciate you spending part of the day with us. And since we've started doing this second half of the show, we've turned the second half into a segment we called Committed to the 419, our conversation with locals making a difference right here in Northwest Ohio. And this week, the guys are joined by Allison Armstrong, the Chief of Fire and Rescue for Toledo. You know, usually on the show, we talk about financial fires, how to rescue retirees. Earlier, we actually even used the financial fire safety drill analogy. But let's chat a bit more about what our listeners need to know about practical safety tips at home and around town.
Yeah, it's just like the economy. Unexpected disasters really can happen at any time. So I thought it was super appropriate now that we're getting ready to kick off Memorial Day weekend. There's a lot going on. And, it's a good idea to take some time right now to maybe pause for a minute and make sure that you're getting prepared for things that could happen. But, I say before we jump into the show, Allison, thanks for joining us. Good to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Nolan.
Yeah, I'm glad you were able to come on the show and share some ideas. And, congratulations. So the first female chief in the history of Toledo. It's about time.
Thank you.
And luckily, I've known Allison for quite a long time. Her kid and son was in Scouts with my son, and so we both are from the Waterville area and have grown up together. So it's good to see you continuing to make big marks in Northwest Ohio and doing good things, which is kind of what our show is about. Every week we do a segment called Committed to the 419, and we try to identify organizations, businesses, and nonprofits that are helping do the right thing for here in Northwest Ohio. So it's good to have you here. So how are things going?
Very well. As you can imagine, very busy. I just hired 70 new firefighters. So
Wow.
Getting the classes, it's 2 classes, getting them going and all the obstacles with COVID and supply chain issues and everything you can imagine. It was a lot of work, but we got that behind us. And I have 55 starting 6-3. So I'm excited about that.
That'll be a good group coming out. So do we still have, I'd say, demand for additional people to get into, fire rescue?
Absolutely. There's always demand. We had some big classes that are coming up for retirement. And then beyond that, we have a lot of people that are just changing careers right now. There's other opportunities out there, and people are taking them. So we're always looking for qualified people to join the ranks.
How long's kind of been, I guess, your background then in Toledo Fire Rescue?
I've been here 22 years.
Okay.
So a question with the 55 new, is that all fire or is that fire and rescue? Or is there a difference?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So in most of the fire departments around here in Toledo, I can speak for specifically, all our firefighters are EMT basic trained, which is a 150-hour course. We have half of them are paramedic level trained, which I think is like a 1,100-hour course. But they are all required to be at least EMTB trained because the reality is most of the incidents we respond to, somewhere between 80 and 90% are medical in nature. They're EMS calls.
Well, that makes sense. Not everything you get dispatched to is going to be a fire, a blazing, make your hair stand up, charging the fire. Accidents happen and people, do crazy things and get hurt. And that's where you're going to get a call as well, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Well, if we look at it, thinking about things and, again, trying to give some advice to some of the listeners of, Memorial Day weekend, it's the weekend that, kicking things off. You've probably not used the gas grill for a while. I know last weekend over at Hooves, we had a big cookout for all the veterans who went through the program that we had last weekend. And it was, I call Phil the Grill. So I had, as many burgers and hot dogs and brats as I could get on the grill. And, of course, the gas is catching everything on fire, but it was good. And then maybe this weekend with the weather looking like it's nice, maybe Sunday, Monday, go out back and start the fire out there and the campsite and hopefully maybe even get the boat out and be able to take it up to the lake. There's all of these things that you got to start thinking ahead of and things that happen unexpected. I know, it's not about a year ago, I think we had got a phone call from Courtney at our office.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And she had called me late at night, and her house actually had caught on fire. So it's not very often you hear something like that happen. And she's one of the people that work here at the office, and I think not all of our listeners know that had happened to her. But luckily they heard the fire alarm going off, so they were upstairs, they were in bed. It was late at night. Husband thought, all right, what is she cooking down there? And late at night making pizza or popcorn or something's burning, but gets up and actually saw the car had shorted out and the car had caught fire in the garage and really had pretty much engulfed their house. But luckily, through the smoke detectors and the plan of attack that they had, they were all able to make it out okay. I know one of their animals was injured, but still was able to survive. But something that we were talking about before, when you're looking at your plan around the house, what are some of the things that you would say that your experience would tell our listeners are important things about making sure in the house you're preparing for some of the unexpected?
Yeah, so many of the things that I would talk about typically in those scenarios are the ones you mentioned, right? Having working smoke detectors, closing your bedroom doors, having an escape plan, because what happens is people escape different routes, and if you don't convene in a preset location, then you have somebody maybe going back into the house to look for somebody that's already out, and then something happens to them, or worse, they get killed. So those are the things that we advocate for. And in today's construction, new construction, everybody wants the open floor concept. Well, it's bad for fire spread because everything's wide open, which is why we advocate that you close your bedroom doors at a minimum in case something were to happen in the middle of the night. Having fire extinguishers accessible, usually where the cooking area is, because that's where we typically see a lot of fires start, so that you can access that fire extinguisher, and it wouldn't be between you and where the fire might be as far as your stove or whatever cooking appliances you have. I mean, those are the top things that I would recommend.
The other thing is, it happens all the time. So I can remember the fire safety drill because of being back in Cub Scouts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we earned these badges and merit badges for Cub Scouts, and I can remember as the kids being little, one of the exercises was doing your fire safety plan with the kids at home. And so, we had a predetermined spot at the neighbors where we would meet at if anything ever happened. But, as time goes by, or people that maybe weren't involved in Scouts or some activity that they did at school, or, they maybe haven't run that fire safety drill. And if you haven't done it for a while, I'd say, take some time this week and talk to your family about it. Just go over what the plan is. And, in reality, this is a plan not just to do when the kids were little. In fact, if you look at it, what we do at America's Retirement Headquarters is, we work a lot with people that are close to or in retirement time. And, some of the statistics I think that you were sharing with me is that actually it's not just children. The older population is even more at risk in some of these scenarios of house fires.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And looking at the statistics, starting at age 65, you are at much higher risk to be injured or killed in a house fire. And, there's many reasons for that. Some, our reaction time is not as quick as it used to be. The senses, smell, hearing, they may not be as astute as they once were. So that may delay your reaction to identifying that there's a fire, and then getting escape out of the house could take longer.
Ideal, that's my especially as most everybody knows me, is the Medicare, the 65 and older. And as we're talking, I'm thinking through a lot of these things, and I'm like, holy cow, I guess I'm going to have to go home and do my fire safety drills and talk to the family, because, closing the bedroom doors, I was talking earlier, I'm like, that makes perfect sense, and I don't know that I do that, but there's a lot of things in here that a lot of people just aren't, unless they go to educational events of some sort where you talk about these things, they're not going to remember that. But when you're talking to 65 and older, I deal with those people every day, and there's several people that come into my office that struggle. There's many of them that have canes or walkers. It's got to be very difficult to make sure they have a clear path, a clear exit path to get out of the house in case there's a fire. Stairs. My mom, she moved from a 2-story house into a ranch where it's all on one floor to make life a lot easier. Those statistics, albeit scary, doesn't really surprise me based on how some 65-year-olds are, and even older. I mean, I can't imagine, my mom at 84 years old, if there's a fire, I don't know how she's going to be alert enough to figure out what's going on, to get up out of bed, to get out of that house in a timely fashion. I mean, it's a scary thought, but it's got to be reality. You probably see that every day.
We do. We see a lot of injuries, burns, fatalities related to all those causes that you're talking about.
Yeah, it's scary. It's scary. And that cooking fires. I remember I mean, I guess you don't have to be a certain age to have a cooking fire. You could just be a bad cook to have a cooking fire, right? But I remember when my grandmother was living with my mom and dad. She was elderly and had a couple of strokes, and they had to really make sure that they watched everything she did. She would leave the water on. She would leave the refrigerator door open. She went through paper towel after paper towel after paper towel, and the stove would be left on. I can't imagine how many times that happens with the senior population, and that's why a lot of the elderly people like that, making sure you have the proper long-term care policies put in place to get into long-term care facilities where the families may not want to put them in there, but it's for their own safety and their own well-being at times. I mean, I'm sure you see all kinds of crazy things out there, and I commend you guys for what you do, and I appreciate everything you do for us, too.
No, thank you. And you're absolutely right. And then, as we get older, risk of falls increases exponentially. And it doesn't take much then for somebody, let's say over the age of, 60, 65, to fracture something if they fall. And many times, I think I read somewhere like 95% of hip fractures are from falls from standing. And, those could be fatal accidents. Patient may not die right away, but because of complications and if they need surgery or whatnot, those end up being very, very costly and problematic.
Yeah, you did say 60, 65. Let's push that 65. You don't know this, but I'm 60. So let's push that back to 65.
Great.
Thank you. Okay, moving on.
Well, interesting enough, I think the other thing with the fire alarms is carbon monoxide detectors. So, what are you seeing with smoke alarms today? Is that common? Are they together? Is it a different piece that you get? Like, what's the importance of a carbon monoxide alarm in the home?
To be honest, I don't know if they make a combination alarm, but carbon monoxide alarms are extremely important because it is an odorless, tasteless gas, and it's fatal. So, gas-producing appliances can release it if things aren't properly vented, like hot water tanks, furnaces, things like that. You could have that carbon monoxide build up in your house, and while you're sleeping, you could simply be killed and have no idea that it's even there, poisoning you, essentially.
Yeah, so definitely something, if you don't have the carbon monoxide detector, something to really check out. And again, as you're checking on your loved ones, so things like, if you're out driving around Memorial Day weekend, stop by one of the hardware stores, grab a fire extinguisher for mom or dad, especially if it's time to replace it. Keep it by the kitchen, where some of the most common places are. Check the batteries, look at making sure they have a carbon monoxide detector inside of there. So we were talking a little bit there. You had mentioned some of the other issues for falls. I mean, that's something that I see. I actually had a client that I was in last night that we were talking about, him either selling his house to go somewhere else because he needed something that was more handicap accessible for his health situation, or spending time kind of remodeling it. And really, if you look at it, falls among adults age 65 and over, they caused about 34,000 deaths in 2019. So, that's actually quite a bit more than what the house fires are. And it's making it the leading cause of major injuries, according to the CDC for older Americans. What are some pointers if people are listening and they're thinking about mom and dad's house and things that they can do to help with, trying to keep those numbers down?
So that's a great question. So a lot of the falls that personally I've seen, and I think it would be across our organization, people would say the same thing, are bathroom falls. And so you have, rugs that people slip on or trip on. So, taking those things out of the bathroom, keeping areas clear and clutter-free so people aren't tripping on things that don't need to be there that are in the way, installing grab bars or non-slip strips in the shower or the tub or whatnot. They also make there are bathroom places that make modifications so people don't have to climb over the edge of a bathtub to get in there. Looking at things like that, because falls cause a large number of injuries, like you said, and there are simple things that you can do to prevent them.
Wouldn't you think also, Allison, in a bathroom, in some more confined area, if you're in a hallway, a fall is a fall, and it's still going to be bad. But the likelihood of falling backwards and hitting the vanity in the bathroom, or falling and in hitting the tub or the toilet is much greater in a bathroom because of the confined area. Would you not agree?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And then you add water to that,
Oh.
right? Water getting on the floor,
Sure.
stepping in and out of the shower and whatnot. So you're absolutely correct.
One of the things that for the seniors listening with the Medicare Advantage plans that I sell, there's over-the-counter coverage for most of these companies, and the crazy thing is you can actually purchase the handbars, the higher toilet seats, the grab bars and the things that can lift you up off the toilet seat, and even the shower seats are all covered under the over-the-counter items with most of these companies out there. So that's one way to get some coverage and protect yourself from those slip and falls as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think that's important for people to know.
Kind of like coming down to, again, just being proactive, looking at your house, looking at inside the house, looking at outside the house with, again, the kickoff. This is kind of the kickoff of the year. This is a fresh time to take a look at these things in and around your house. Just take a couple of minutes to get everything up and ready for making sure your family stays safe throughout not only this holiday, but throughout the rest of the year, and taking all the steps to plan ahead. But those are things that you can, really kind of plan for. The other thing I want to talk a little bit about is, how do you plan for the unexpected, right? So if we look at it, strong thunderstorms, there was, in 2020, 51 major thunderstorms. It resulted in $35 billion of insured losses. Floods, 4 floods totaling $2.2 billion of insured losses. We have winter storms. There's record blizzards in 2020. It totaled 58 million in insured losses. So, really, again, the best time to prepare for some type of disaster is no different like when we talk about it for the stock market. It's to prepare for it before something bad happens. And, to protect you and your family from a natural disaster, being really proactive here is kind of another key. Is there any pointers, I think, that you would give kind of our listeners when you're thinking about, preparing for the unexpected and things that come up that can help, reduce the risk of death or injury or loss?
Yeah, so you make some great points. I mean, the time to prepare for a disaster is absolutely before it happens, and having these things in place so that you can access them, should that disaster occur. And, the things that come to the top of my head, obviously, are, having food, water, batteries for flashlights and things like that. And, what would you do if you had an extended time period without power, right? Because that's kind of one of the biggest things that I think about is if you have these storms that knock out power and you have no generator, or even if you do you have gas in the generator? Does it work? But planning for those sorts of things so that you can have them in place and then execute them if and when the time comes.
Yeah, those things happen, unfortunately, too often. I remember, one of my, son's teachers from Children's Discovery Zone when he was little, got hit by the tornadoes that came through, and unfortunately, she lost her life in that scenario. Things, pop up. That was in the middle of the night. They were probably sleeping in bed, didn't have much thought to it. There was another time growing up in Bryan, Ohio. They were working on some of the sewer systems in the neighborhood, and we had a major storm that had come through, and all of a sudden my mom's house had like 4.5 feet of water inside of it. So it was pretty shocking.
Wow.
Had to be kind of rescued from a boat, and things that happened.
Nolan, that's when you say rescued from a boat, that leads me to a story. So the Maumee River, I live in Waterville. The Maumee River, this was after a weekend of heavy rains. I think it was, might have been, well, it was in August, September, something like that. And I decided that we're going to go canoeing. So my wife at the time and I put in up in Grand Rapids and canoed from Grand Rapids to Waterville and had a great time. That was a Saturday. And then Sunday we decided, well, let's go from Waterville to Toledo. So we put in and we get right down right before, I think it's Farmsworth Park. I'm not sure what the park is there. And the rapids were really, really heavy. And stupid me, I decided to go right straight down the middle of the rapids, right? And we have a dog with us. We called her Canoe Dog at the time. And we didn't tip over. We sunk. The rapids were so bad, the water come in and sunk. So here we are, bobbers, in the middle of the river. I'm looking at this side, I'm looking at that side, and there's no way that we're going to swim. The water's really moving fast. And as luck would have it, going across the Perrysburg-Maumee Bridge is a rescue vehicle. And they happen to look over and they see us bobbing down the middle of the river, heading towards the bridge, and they called it in. And we got stuck on one of the bridge pylons there, and I pushed the canoe over to there. And lo and behold, here comes the fire and rescue with their, what's that rubber boat, albatross or whatever. They bring the boat, put the boat in and that. And they were extremely upset with us. The life jackets, we had them. We didn't have them on, which was stupid. They were floating down the river. Our cooler was floating down the river. Come to find out, the day before, someone up in Perrysburg had been drinking, jumped off the boat, and actually drowned. And I had no idea about that. But they happened to see us, called it in, and had someone waiting there to rescue us off of the river. So that was kind of a unique situation that could have been prevented if I wouldn't have been so stupid, I guess. But, I'm forever grateful because I thought that was one of the times I was going to lose my life.
Wow, that's an amazing story. You're lucky.
Yeah, I am. I haven't canoed since.
Yeah. Good rule of thumb, to be safe, don't do stupid things.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I'm sure you could tell these stories all day long of that topic as well, but those are the type of things that kind of keep you safe. The other thing, when we were talking about emergency kit at home, it's good to have that kit, your ready-go kit in case something happens and you lose the power. But I think about the same thing in my car. So, I recently bought fire extinguishers actually for all of our vehicles. We keep it in the back of the car and keep different things that are up there. I was going to the airport, so I travel a lot for work. And we were taking one of our trips up there. And I've got it almost down to a science of what time I need to get there, where I need to park, and how I can get in because of, just traveling so often. So I've got not much of a window of an opportunity to have traffic problems come up or things like that. So here we are, we're going north on 75, and I look over and I see this car, and for the life of me, I'm like, I think I just saw this car go off the road, and I see a huge splash, right? But it's early in the morning, I'm going to the airport, and I'm like, no, I don't see a car over there, but I think I saw that. And so I go up, take the median, turn around, come back, and sure enough, there was a car that had gone off the road, and the driver happened to fall asleep for the moment of time, but he went through all of the woods and wilderness there, and so really nobody else saw him go into the water.
Wow.
And so, luckily in that situation, it was wintertime, so somebody else about this time had stopped, and so we were able to get him a blanket, able to get, some of the things that were supplies that were needed. And I'm a type of guy, I don't know, it's just my personality. I don't know if it's the Marine in me, but I'll just run into a situation. Sometimes that isn't always the smartest thing to do either, but it's just, my natural instinct. And so I was, through scouts, I've done a lot of emergency preparedness. I've done a lot of first aid training. I by no means am very qualified like you guys are, but I'm just there to help. And so, these type of things happen. And I think when you're thinking about your automobile, that's another really good spot that you kind of want to have an emergency kit handy and ready to go, just because things happen. I'm sure we've all seen that car that's on fire by the side of the road, and that's why I have a fire extinguisher in my car, because a lot of times, if it's me or something that's happening, hopefully if you're proactive and have that fire extinguisher, you can take care of it before it gets out of control, and we need to have you guys come save us, right, and put it out. So things like inside of your car and your emergency kit, you might want to have duct tape, that flashlight with the extra batteries, the fire extinguisher, a first aid kit, maybe a small shovel, flare. Can never go wrong with a little WD-40, light sticks, some of your basic tools like wrenches and screwdrivers, pliers, sockets, a safety vest, so you could just throw on a vest if you broke down. It's late at night. Make sure that other drivers can see you. Brightly colored clothes in an emergency situation. Matches if you need be, and those are the type of things. Again, it's just easy while you're thinking about it now to kind of get some of those emergency kits put together for not only at home, but also to throw one in the back of your car. The other thing I think is a couple pointers, and I know we're coming up close on time of running out here, but thinking about your important documents that you have and keeping them in a safe, a secure location, knowing where to be able to shut off the water, the electrical, the gas shut off in your house, creating and practicing that emergency plan. And, it wouldn't be prudent of us, I guess I would say, Scott, being that, we're financial advisors, to talk about not making sure that you review your insurance coverage. I know when my mom's house flooded, that wasn't covered by insurance.
Right.
Yeah, and so that was kind of a shock. And then, with my kids in college, thinking about, what type of renter's insurance that they have. And a lot of these kids go to college and don't have proper coverage. But as we're kind of nearing the end, any other final thoughts, Allison, that you would want to share with listeners on ideas for kicking off the weekend, or just ultimately staying safe so you guys hopefully can spend some time enjoying your family?
I just have one final thought. Actually, speaking of Memorial Day weekend, we had a fire in Waterville on the Memorial Day weekend, and I believe it was a light that might have caught some mulch on fire. But you bring up some good points with grilling, right? You need to keep that grill away from the house. You need to make sure that it's not leaking propane where it shouldn't be, and if it is, shut it off and get it fixed. And then not emptying, like hot coals or anything like that into garbage cans, because we see fires like that also. Somebody dumps it into garbage can, the garbage can's next to the house. Hours later, the side of the house is on fire when they're asleep. So, things like that to keep people safe over the holiday weekend.
Absolutely. So everybody enjoy your holiday weekend. Chief, it's great to have you here. Again, congratulations. I think as somebody that I know, a well-deserved position, and I appreciate you keeping everybody safe and always being there for us in our time of panic. And it's great to have you along with us. That's Chief Allison Armstrong from the Toledo Fire and Rescue Department.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's all about making sure that you run that fire safety drill. Maybe not necessarily this weekend, but sometime soon. Go ahead and have that plan in place. A lot of flashbacks knowing to my scouting days many, many years ago. And the number one motto is being prepared. And so running the actual fire safety drill, running the financial fire safety drill as you get closer and closer to retirement. We talked about it earlier. Want to go ahead and drive that point home again. For that, America's Retirement Headquarters is here for you. Real easy to get in touch with, 419-794-3030, or online at americasretirementheadquarters.com. We appreciate you spending part of the weekend with us. Please have a safe one out there. And guys, any final words as we wrap up?
I just want to say thanks. Memorial Day weekend gives us a little bit of time to reflect about those who served us. And, we just wanted to say thank you to everybody who has served as a veteran. We appreciate everybody in the police and fire, and, all of the people that take that extra step to go the extra mile for helping us as America stay a great country that we are. If you see a veteran, you see somebody, police and fire, somebody serving this weekend, I would say take a moment, thank them, maybe grab them a cup of coffee, get them a Coca-Cola Classic, heck, fill up their gas tank if you're standing there. Do something extra, just a way to pay it forward and do something to thank those people that are out there taking time away from their weekend because of dumb stuff that we sometimes do, or just accidents that happen. So again, thank you all for all you do, and we look forward to seeing you next week, same time, same channel, right here on 1370 WSPD.